Wow, the heat's affected this. Miles out of tune, mama. Okay, let's just see if I can get a signal. Mama. Hello Troglodyte Tribe and welcome back. This week we've got something a bit special. I've left my cave and I've entered into an amazing cave of history, of rock and roll, 60s, 70s, just stuff and the dreams are made of for someone like me. This is Chris Hewitt from CH Vintage Audio, Museum of Rock. So thank you very much for letting me come out and have a chat with you today.
You're welcome.
So we're just going to focus in on one of the... I mean, I walked in here earlier on and literally the hairs on my arm stood up. I went over to you, I was like, what's that written on that box? Well, hang on, what's that? But today we're looking at just the most amazing piece of kit. Do you want to introduce it?
Well, yeah, we're going to look at two, hopefully, aren't we? Two.
Yeah.
So this is a Marshall 50 that was used as a rehearsal amp backstage by Hendrix at the Isle of Wight. And we've also got a Marshall Slave over there behind you, which belonged to Hendrix, and the Uni-Vibe pedal, which belonged to Hendrix.
The amount of questions that, that come to mind as soon as you see this, I've just got to start with how? I mean, how have you ended up with Jimi Hendrix's backstage rehearsal? It's brilliant.
Just through contacts and, I mean, I've actually had two of these Uni-Vibes, but I've scaled it down to one. It's just, once you start collecting, you get offered things all the time. Usually when you've not got any money. If you've got money, there's nothing available. And when you've no money, loads of things come up.
Suddenly it's like, suddenly you're scrambling around and you can't let that piece of gear go.
That's
and,
right.
Yeah.
Hendrix had a very close relationship with Marshall. In fact, we were going to recreate the Isle of Wight in September 2020 for the 50th anniversary, but we're now probably going to do it in 2022 because of COVID. And we've got, sponsorship by Marshall for some new amps for the Isle of Wight. Although most of the bands have said, will you be taking your vintage collection of Marshalls?
That's the first thing that popped to my head. You're still going to take the old school as well. It's the dream, isn't it? I mean, It is just such an incredible find. I mean, so does it get turned on much? I mean, how often has this been used?
Just now and again, really. It tends to go out to exhibitions more than anything else.
Okay. And he's going to let me play with it. What's lovely is that you're sharing that with us today so that we can get this stuff out there into the world and let them see it and hear it, because it needs to be seen, and more importantly, these things need to be heard. You know, this is.
I mean, one of the most interesting things is obviously the move into biopics, and I'm working on a certain biopic at the moment of a certain punk band from 1977, one of the most outrageous ones, and then obviously I've done Elton John's Rocket Man, and I've done Bohemian Rhapsody, and I did the Morrissey film England Is Mine, and I've just done a film about Salvador Dali in a recording studio. I've provided gear for that. So
when you say you've done these, you basically, when you look at the scenes of the old equipment and the original settings...
They send me pictures and say, they'll send me an awful picture of a nightclub in LA, the Troubadour, and say, can you tell me what that cab is in the back behind the... And of course, no one ever took pictures of gear.
Yeah.
They always took pictures of musicians. So you're trying to examine an amp stack with a tall bass player stood in front of it. And it's like, well, you know, how am I supposed to see what... But through lots of magnification and research and things, you know, you can do these things.
Brilliant. And the likelihood is that around you, you've probably got something from that era.
Yeah, and if not, you know, I can usually source it, and I think the whole biopic thing is, you know, it's going to happen, and they want it to be more and more accurate.
Yeah.
You know, no longer can you make a film about a band and just throw any sort of gear in, and people actually want to see it's the right gear, it's got the right plugs and sockets on it, it's the right age of guitar.
Well, people like me and I imagine the Troglodyte Tribe are not necessarily looking at the actors at that moment. We're all looking at the amps and going, what guitar's that? Oh, when did that headstock come out at that time? So, can you remember how you managed to come across an amp that has JH-EXP on the side?
I think about 5 or 6 years ago, I was buying up a lot of stuff because I knew the Isle of Wight anniversary was coming up, and so I was just tracking down Isle of Wight gear, and I came across the Hendrix slave amp and this Hendrix amp, and the mixers that we use, the WEM mixers that we use for Hendrix. So probably 5 or 6 years ago, something like that.
Brilliant. And how do you check the provenance on something like this?
At the time, you know, there were still people alive that worked for Hendrix, and therefore I was able to sort of, although they're getting fewer and far between, but, you know, I was able to check things back. And
brilliant.
Obviously the same with the Uni-Vibe pedal as well. I had 2 of those from the Hendrix stable.
So let's have a chat about the Uni-Vibe. So this is a Hendrix used, owned Uni-Vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you told me that on the phone the other week, yeah, I think you might have heard the shock in my voice. It was like, you have what now? So there's one thing owning a couple of amps.
It's 110 volts. Sadly, it hasn't got the original wah-wah type.
Yeah.
I'm still looking to maybe eventually put, you know, a wah-wah type control box on it, you know, a swell type pedal, but...
Brilliant.
But it's the, you know, because there are 2 40 volt versions of the Uni-Vibe around, but the Hendrix ones were always 110 anyway.
Brilliant. And so one of the things I did a couple of weeks ago was I got hold of what Dunlop are selling as the authentic Hendrix Uni-Vibe chorus. So one of the things you're going to be so kind as to let me do is to compare directly what they class as the authentic Hendrix Uni-Vibe against an authentic Hendrix Uni-Vibe, and see where we stand with modern technology and what's available to people like me compared to such amazing historic pieces that you've got here. Let's put that through there. Okay, your valves are cooling. So, this is the Marshall 100 slave head, is that right?
Yeah.
You've got real limited controls on this. It's got presence and it's got volume. So it just is what it is, okay? We're going to get there. Jeebus, man. That's nicer than the JMP.
Yeah.
Flipping hell. your collection that you've got here, I mean, the cameras don't show it, but there's rooms and rooms and rooms of things going on here. You've actually written a book. So do you want to talk to us a bit about that?
Well, with the anniversary of the Isle of Wight coming up last year and me collecting a large amount of WEM PA stuff, I thought it would be interesting because no one's really written a history of, you know, how the PA system and live music really developed from, and I've got it sort of running through from 8-inch columns to 10-inch columns to, you know, 4x12 columns, 4x10 columns, and then the start of the WEM festival system, which was almost a bass bin, a mid bin and a horn, but not quite, because they were infinite baffle, and then Vitavox horns. And then obviously we move into, you know, sort of Martin Audio W bins, and then we move into like ATC 2x12 mids, and then Philly Shave mids and Martin horns, and then the JBL 4560, which are over behind us. So the whole history of that has never really been recorded. I just thought it was time to write a book about it all and gather everyone's knowledge in the industry before it, you know, all disappeared. Now, so here is the book somewhere. The development of large rock sound systems.
And we're going to put a link in the description, so if you want to go and buy this book, just click in the description below and you can get in touch with Chris and get yourself this. I've had a look through it this morning and it's absolutely brilliant. It's really nice photos and you can see clearly the sort of the story behind all the stuff.
Yeah, because people, you know, to get that sound that one gets, you know, when you think that, you know, there was only 40 100 watt slave amps at the Isle of Wight for 600,000 people, you know, so that's like 4,000 watts for 600,000 people.
Chris has got an amazing collection. It's so kind of you to let me come down here today and show the world just one of your amazing collection, and to come back again in the future and look at other things and share it with you all. Chris does hire this equipment out to film companies. Like you said, you've seen a lot of Chris's stuff is in the Bohemian Rhapsody film, it's in the Elton John film, and other things that he's talked about briefly this morning that we can't go into too much just yet.
Not till next year.
Not till next year, but when you're looking at those films and you're going, where did they get that? It's probably from you.
Me, yeah.
So if you want to get the book and learn more about this, or visit Chris's website, it's all in the description below.
Or if you're a band who wants to shoot a video and fancies hiring stuff from the right period.
Perfect. Yeah. So, you know, it's all your contact information we're going to put in the description. So just get in touch. Like, you just won't believe what's around here. It's incredible. What a piece of kit. Sorry, am I too loud for you?